So, the overall picture is quite dark and bleak and can be depressing too. And I think this resonates well with all the lockdowns and SOPs, especially in this COVID pandemic. Who in the world would or could come to such a conclusion about life? This bite the bullets observation came from a been there and done that person. He was successful, he was clever, and he was powerful, though he was also lost and black-seated. These are the writer's honest bite the bullet assessment of life. Doom and gloom. Very depressing, right? Is our life like this? Is this really how we feel? I pray that our life is not like that. I pray that we do not feel like that. But sometimes the dark clouds gather and the storm builds up. And sadly, sometimes it's not just sometimes. Sometimes it is oftentimes. Many times, trouble are all around us. Hardships are so difficult. We would also note this interesting phrase, under the sun, quite unique to the book of Ecclesiastes, especially used in the King James Version. Under the sun means in this life, here on earth. And therefore, the writer implied the universality of his observation, that the emptiness of life will be felt by all people. How did we end up in this terrible situation? Even as Christians, even as God's children, life often may not be very kind to us. Our life may have very difficult challenges. But what is the root cause? We will need to go back to the Garden of Eden. To find that root cause, let's look at Genesis chapter 3. The background of this Bible text in Genesis chapter 3. God has already created Adam and Eve. They were placed in the Garden of Eden. They were assigned the work of taking care of Eden. They were like caretakers of this beautiful garden. There were two special trees in the garden. One they could eat from, and another they could not. We know the account. Clear instructions were given, but Adam and Eve disobeyed and sinned against God. And so, here we read the consequences of the fall. God's word to Adam and Eve. Through painful toil, you will eat food from the ground all the days of your life. The cursed ground will produce thorns and thistles, and by the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until your life cease and you return to the ground one day. That's right. We read in Genesis chapter 3 and we see here in the Garden of Eden that the fall of Adam and Eve was the root cause. Ecclesiastes chapter 2 is connected to Genesis chapter 3. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God and when they sinned against Him, meaningful work became meaningless toil.